大家好，今天是圣诞节，所以呢，先祝大家圣诞快乐。Today is Christmas, so I just want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas. Today I would like to start on the basic knowledge of 紫微斗数 again to teach all my viewers how to go about analyzing your own 紫微斗数 chart. 紫微斗数 chart has been a very useful tool for predicting the future, and it is also a very popular forecasting method, both for people of the Chinese and even for Westerners. Okay, nowadays a lot of Westerners are also learning 紫微斗数and using it as a way of forecasting to use it as a method of providing a forecast for their own future. So for today's lesson, I will explain 紫微斗数 using English, alright? Because I hope that even people who are not Chinese will be able to have a good understanding on 紫微斗数 and use it for the benefit of their own life. In terms of 紫微斗数, you will always be able to observe the 12 domains within a birth chart. If you have a mobile app, you can always plot your own 紫微斗数 chart, and you will always be able to see, right, there will be 12 domains, right, 12 domains within a 紫微斗数 birth chart. In terms of basic knowledge, the 12 domains are the life domain, or some of us call it the self-destiny domain. The second domain or palace, it is called the brotherhood or siblings domain. Alright, I will interchangeably use the word domain or palaces when I refer to specific courts. Okay, among the 12 courts, there are different kinds of domains or palaces that we can use to analyze our own chart, and I will explain to you one by one later on. Alright, so let me first run through with you the 12 domains first. The first domain, I will call it the life or self-destiny domain. The second domain is called the brotherhood or siblings domain. The third domain is the couple or relationship domain, or some people call it the marriage domain. And thank you very much, Miss Maka and Aries, for watching, and Merry Christmas to all my viewers. Merry Christmas to all my viewers. All right. And the third domain, which is the couples domain, or is called the marriage domain. Basically, it is a domain for the analysis of the characteristics related to our relationship or marriage. Okay. The fourth domain is called the junior domain, or it can be called the children domain as well. Alright, I will explain in depth later on what the characteristics are related to each domain and how we can use it for the analysis of our own life. And Raymond, thank you very much for watching, and Merry Christmas to you also. And followed by the asset domain or the property domain, or some people like to call it the house domain. Angie So also, a Merry Christmas to you, Angie So. And then the fifth domain is the health domain, or sometimes we call it the body domain. And it basically governs our health, all right? And then we also have the soul domain, or what I like to call the karmic or mind domain, all right? Because basically, not only it shows our personality and our thinkings and emotions, it also shows some of the karmic consequences that we brought forward from the previous life, all right? And followed by the friendship domain, or what I call the social domain, followed by the career domain or the work palace, okay? As I mentioned before, I will use the word palace and domain interchangeably, okay? Because in terms of Chinese, it is basically called 宫位 or 宫位，就是呢，宫位在 Chinese 的一个意思就是一个 domain 或者是一个 court， 或者是一个有人把宫位这个宫说成是一个好像皇宫这样，所以也可以用一个 palace 这样的一个 metaphorical word to represent this word called domain, alright? And we also have the career domain, and also what we call the wealth domain, okay, which is a domain for the analysis of our money. And then we also have the parents domain. We also have what are the domains? The travel domain. Okay, basically we have all these domains. Okay, did I miss out anything? But to tell you the secret, okay, the secret, there are actually more than these 12 domains. 还有一些宫位呢 for example, some domains are actually called the 身宫. 身宫 is very much like called, if to translate directly, is called a body domain. And also palaces such as the 来应宫. Basically, it shows the karma that you brought to this present life from your previous life. Okay, so there are actually a lot of domains that we have to learn when we study 紫微斗数 deeper. Okay, so let me first touch on the self-destiny domain first, or what we often call the life domain or the life chamber. Okay, for today's lesson, I will just refer all of them as domain. Okay, the life domain basically comprises of the totality of who you are. Okay. 就是用华语来说呢，命宫是代表你自己本身的哈 ，it reflects the entire spectrum of a person's makeup。所以呢，它是能够反映你整个人或者一生一个总括来说的一个整体性的一个性质是什么？it can reflect your physical characteristics。You can reflect your personality, your character, and personal preferences. 就是呢，我们才在那个命宫呢，紫微斗数的命宫呢，可以看到你的甚至你的身材、你的长相是怎么样，你的那个谈吐啊，那个举行，那个你的举动啊，你的态度啊，做人的态度是怎么样啊，这些都是可以从我们的命宫里面看得出。Alright. For example, someone who has a Zi Wei star within a self-destiny domain may look like someone who is very usually 很有贵气 very elegant, someone who is very elegant, someone who is usually when you look at him, right, you will respect this person. Okay, for example, if you have Zi Wei star within your self domain, alright. Well, someone who have Tang Nan, which is a peach blossom star within the self-destiny domain, usually that person will be very attractive, okay, will be very charismatic in his appearance or in his demeanor. Okay, so in terms of 紫微斗数, it can show you a lot of things. Okay, and also your personal preferences. For example, someone who has the 武曲 star within your self-destiny domain, you may be someone who places a very strong emphasis or focus in the gaining of money or financial resources. Okay, so all these different stars, when paired with your self-destiny domain, will show you different things. Whereas someone who have a tying star within their self-destiny domain may be someone who is very gentle, or someone who is, if you are male gender, maybe someone who has a tendency to be attractive, right, to people who are of the female gender. Basically, it means that you may be a ladies' man, alright? You're someone who is always having a lot of girlfriends around you, for instance, okay? So such are the interesting things that we can observe from a 紫微斗数chart, alright? Okay, so the stars that are located in your self-destiny domain, or what I call 命宫, reveal your life path, right? Basically, we are all born with certain life path. For example, people who have 巨门 star within their self-destiny domain, most of the time they will enter into career. They are related to speaking, they are related to anything that's related to the mouth. For example, eating. For example, being a DJ, being a singer. Okay, for example. So your self-destiny domain, or what I call the 命宫, or some people like to call it the life chamber, will reveal your life path. What potential you have, in this lifetime, what you can do to achieve success, for instance. Okay, this is the most important domain or chamber when accessing an individual's chart, alright, under the age of 30 usually. Okay, when it is beyond the age of 30, we may usually look at the body domain, which is the 身宫. Alright, especially in modern context, people live longer. So sometimes it may be after the age of 45. Then you have to shift, okay? You have to shift away from your self-destiny domain to focus on your 身宫, which is the body domain, for the analysis of the second half of your life, okay? And the next domain, we have the what we call the brotherhood domain. Brotherhood domain basically is also called the siblings domain. Why is it called a siblings or brotherhood domain or a siblings or brotherhood chamber? Because basically it shows the characteristics that are related to your brother or sister, alright? It shows the quality and the strength of your personal support system. What it means is that 就是呢，它会反映你人际关系上的一个那个人，好像你打个比喻，你能不能够得到你身边的人的一个支持啊？还有呢，有一个好的一个人际关系哈，整体来说有没有一个好的人际关系？我说过了，我们人生要成功嘛，其实大部分的时候并不是你懂什么，是你认识谁啊，那才是重点。I have mentioned many times before that in order to achieve great success in life, basically, really, as a matter of fact, it's not what you know, but who you know, alright? And actually, right, if you look at the siblings domain or the brotherhood domain, right, it is actually the wealth domain of your career domain, alright? So, if you look at your career progress, in order to achieve great success, right, basically, you really need to have a lot of good social networking skills, or have a lot of strong support from your relationship. Because, right, okay, if you open your Zi Wei Dou Shu chart, focus on your career domain. Okay, for example, in this case, I'm not sure if you can see from my handphone, but there will always be a 三方四正 relationship whereby we always have to take into the consideration of what is at the opposite domain or chords, okay, within the analysis and the adjacent two chords here, alright, which is about 3 domains away from your self-destiny domain. 就是呢，我们呢看紫微斗数永远都要看三方四正。三方四正呢，就是看你对宫，还有呢你左边第4个宫位的宫，还有你右边第4个宫位的宫。我有说过了，我们事业宫就是我们人生的气数位，就是很重要的一个位置，是我们命宫左边第4个位哈。好像我们呢常常看风水呢，青龙位左边就是很重要的。这个事业宫也是我们的气数位，对我们的人生的命格是很重要，有一个很大的影响。So in terms of 紫微斗数reading, a strong emphasis is being placed on what is situated at your career domain, alright? And so happen that the 紫微斗数 chart is arranged in such a way whereby the siblings domain is at the wealth domain of your property domain. Okay, it is at the wealth domain of your property domain. Okay, so whether you will be able to achieve great wealth in life, a strong emphasis have to place on your social networking skills and who you know, and also who supports you. Okay, in the process. All right. And also, career domain is actually also linked with the property domain, because most of the time is only after we achieve career success, then we will be able to have the financial resources to buy our own house. Therefore, the career domain is actually one domain before the property domain, and the career domain will affect the property domain greatly. Okay, but all these are deeper knowledge which I will touch on in the higher level lessons in the future. Okay, so now you have brief idea on what is a brotherhood domain or siblings domain. Okay, the stars that are found within the brotherhood domain or the siblings domain could represent our real siblings, our co-workers, our friends, our colleagues that display a close sibling-like loyalty, supporting a relationship, okay, to your endeavors, okay, to your personal endeavors, achievements, career progress, etc. Alright, so such is the basic characteristics of the brotherhood domain. Well, the next domain we have is called the couple domain, which is also called the marriage or spouse domain, alright, or what we call the marriage or spouse, or even couple chamber, okay, because in English translation, a lot of different translation can mean the same thing for 夫妻宫 ，in Chinese it is called 夫妻宫，就是那么简单哈。其实用中文来讲紫微斗数是比较容易的，可是呢，我是希望能够推广紫微斗数呢，让不懂的中文的人也了解紫微斗数是一个怎么样的事情，是一个很好的一个系统，是一个很 holistic 的一个预测未来的一个系统了，所以我想用英文讲解了哈，让这个知识能够让不懂得华语的人也能够知道它是什么一件回事。Alright, so just want to promote this 紫微斗数 knowledge for the people who don't understand Chinese, right? They hopefully by speaking English, I will be able to help them to understand 紫微斗数 also. Alright, so the couple chamber or the spouse domain reflects the major romantic relationships in your life. It will reveal your prospects of marriage, the qualities of your ideal partner, and your expectations of a mate. Okay, for instance, if you have a star that is of the 七煞, okay, the 7 killing is found in your spouse domain. Usually you will have a very difficult relationship or marriage. You may have a lot of quarrels with your spouse, or it may mean that your spouse will have a very strong character or personality. Or you may marry your spouse suddenly, okay, perhaps because of shotgun marriage, or because of some impulsiveness, you married suddenly, okay? But after marriage, usually your marriage life will not be so smooth, and usually there will be a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of quarrels, and you will need to make a lot of compromises, okay, in order to sustain your marriage, okay? Of course, different stars falling into the spouse domain will show you different types of meaning and different types of relationship developments. Okay, but I will touch on all these topics in future lessons. Today is to give you a brief understanding on what are the 12 domains. All right. Right, and also it shows the potential, what kind of person you may marry. For example, if you have a 天机 star in your spouse domain, 天机 is a star that represents clever, being very clever and being very kind. Okay, so your spouse may tend to be kind and clever. All right, the spouse domain is a blueprint that maps out your romantic relationship throughout your lifetime. Okay, so such is the basic understanding of spouse domain. All right, and the next domain we have is the 子女宫. 子女宫 is called the offspring's domain, the children's domain, or some people refer it as the junior domain because it can also show the characteristics that are related to our junior. Alright, junior at work or other form of people who are younger than you. Alright, in ancient times, people had offsprings to ensure their security in old age. They study the junior chamber to predict if their children will have good character and respect their parents. By looking at this chamber or domain, a person could also predict the chance of having a boy or a girl, okay, in his life. In terms of children, okay, whether the baby that you have will be a boy or a girl, okay? The junior chamber also deals with one's parenting ability, parenting skills. It shows the efforts you put into providing for your children, which will directly impact your relationship with them. Okay, so how you relate to your children can also be reflected by the children's domain. For example, if you are someone who are having the star 太阳 within your children's domain. Basically, it means that your children will be usually very sunny, have a very sunny personality. It also may mean that the way you give them, the kind of upbringing you are giving them will be very, benevolent and very full of love and full of warmth, okay, full of personal warmth, okay, such is the characteristics of the children's domain. All right, but in terms of 紫微斗数, the children's domain or the junior domain may not necessarily only represent your children. It can also show people the characteristics of the people who are younger than you, that are around you in your social network, okay? And this can also be referred to our colleagues who are younger than us, or even our students, okay? Some of us who are teachers, for example, I am a teacher, and my students can also be considered as people under this category category called the junior domain。就是呢，我本身是有教学生嘛，所以我的学生其实也是可以在那个子女宫里面看的。那我自己的子女宫呢是有太阳化权的，所以呢，我的学生通常都很好，他们都对我很好，所以呢，我也是很感恩 ，right？ Because I'm having the 太阳 star in my children's domain also. Therefore, my students, right? Additionally, I'm having this star called 化权, which is one of the 4 flying stars within my children's domain. So, I will say all my students are very wonderful, okay, very wonderful people, alright? And the next we have is the we can refer to the wealth domain, okay? The wealth domain basically, right, is a domain that represents the money we have, the income, our profits, okay? And also it shows you whether you will be able to receive financial favor from other people. Also, in a way, it will also show you what kind of financial challenges you will have within this lifetime, and your money or your financial management skills also. And likewise, it shows your attitude towards money and how you use money, alright? It can also show you whether you will have a wealthy life or a life that is have to suffer from bankruptcy or perhaps other form of financial leakages. Okay, so wealth domain is one of the most important domains also within the 紫微斗数 system of analysis. In terms of 紫微斗数 analysis, right? The wealth domain, career domain, and travel domain, and of course your self domain are the 4 most important domains, alright? Because wealth is a form of resources for the sustainment of one's life, alright? Without wealth, we all cannot sustain our life and cannot sustain the life of our family also. And of course, it will be very positive to have certain good stars within finance domain or the wealth domain. For example, you have 武曲, 紫微, or 天赋. All these are stars that will have to improve or have to overcome financial problems. And usually, people who have these stars within your wealth or finance domain will become rich in life. Alright. Also, in terms of the 4 flying stars, having 化禄. 化禄 is one of the catalyst star that is helpful in terms of the enhancement of wealth or income. Therefore, if you find 化禄 within your wealth domain, 就是财帛宫, then I have to congratulate you. You will usually enjoy a lot of wealth, abundance of wealth within this lifetime. Okay, so go and open your 紫微斗数 chart and plot and see where is what stars are falling into your wealth domain. It's a very important thing. All right, so that it can help us to better manage our money, to plan our financial future, for etc. And also, right, every day I will provide you with some kind of forecast when I have the time, right? Sometimes if you are able to analyze certain stars falling into your wealth domain, for example, certain days you have 巨门化禄 within your wealth domain, then in that particular day, perhaps by proposing certain business deals or talking with your clients or customers, right, you will be able to achieve great financial success on that day, okay? Such is the interesting thing on how we go about conducting financial planning, which is one of the most interesting topics, okay, in 紫微斗数, alright? So when you see days that you find negative stars in your finance domain or wealth domain, then you have to perhaps stop yourself from spending money, okay? Don't go out shopping, don't go meet up with friends, in case you really have to spend a lot of money treating them meals, for instance, okay? Sometimes it will happen, it's very accurate, okay? So do pay more attention to this wealth or finance domain, okay? So the next domain we have is called the health domain. Basically, the health domain reveals your physical illnesses, the physical problems that you are likely to face or you are most likely to inherit, okay, from your parents, because the health domain is also in opposite direction, right opposite direction of the parents domain, okay? It's arranged in such a way to show what kind of illnesses you will inherit from your parents. For example, if your parents have cancer, then the chances of you having cancer, right, can also be reflected in your 紫微斗数 chart by having some kind of stars that will cause cancer, such as 火星 or such as 廉贞 pairing with 化忌. Alright, all these stars may actually cause cancer. But in terms of the kind of long cancerous illnesses, like tumor, alright, for example, you have a benign tumor, you may have 左腹, okay, 左腹 or 右臂 within your health domain, okay. So all these stars can be taken into consideration to analyze what kind of illnesses you will face or inherit in this lifetime. It also shows whether your health is in an ideal state or whether your health is one that is poor, okay. Alright, so the next domain we will have is called the what we call the travel domain. Okay, the travel domain is a domain that represents our the opportunities we will face when we travel. Okay, especially to overseas. For example, if you have some positive stars in your travel domain, for example, Zi Wei star, it means that whenever you travel or whenever you go out, okay, you will receive assistance from other people. You will receive help, or even you will be able to find more financial opportunities by migrating overseas. Okay, and it also shows different types of relationships that is in the external environment. Okay, so in terms of the travel domain, if you find positive stars, it is also a very good sign for you, because as I've mentioned before, right, the travel domain, the wealth domain, and the career domain are the four most important domains that you have to analyze when you look at your chart. Especially when we talk about 就是呢我们以前嘛even nowadays, right, a lot of career still require us to go out of our own house to work. Even nowadays, like for example, people like us who work through the internet, it is also a form of interacting with the external environment, even though it is through the internet, okay? So if you have positive stars in your external environment domain, or what I call travel domain, okay, 就是我们的迁移宫. It means that usually you will have more opportunities, alright? You'll be more well received by the public, especially if you are in a career that involves a lot of public relations, okay? Then it is very important for you to have positive stars in your travel domain, okay? So quite a simple and straightforward domain. And the next domain we have is the friends domain. Okay, friends domain is basically a domain that shows your the kind of friends that you have, right? Or people who work with you, who are your colleagues, whether they are competent or whether they are dependable, and whether they will betray you, okay, whether they will become your hidden enemies, okay. All these can be shown within your friends domain. For example, you have Qin Yang within your friends domain, then you have to be very careful if they will backstab you, okay. They will backstab you. Or if you have 巨门化忌 within your friends domain, you have to be careful if they gossip behind your back, okay. So it is also a very important domain, because we spend most of our life with our colleagues, okay. Beside our family, our colleagues are the ones whom we spend the most of our life with, okay. So it's very important to see what stars are falling into your friends domain also, alright. If you have friends domain that is very positive, for example, you have 天梁. 天梁 is a star that's very helpful, okay, and they are usually very responsible and highly principled people also. So if you find 天梁 within your friends domain, I will congratulate you. Usually you will have very good colleagues or friends who will help you, okay. Okay, the next domain we have is the career domain. The career domain, or the career chamber, is also one of the four most important domains, as I've mentioned. It's important for people who work in any area of administration, planning, or inspection, especially, right? This domain or chamber is pertinent to anyone who has a typical office job. Okay, usually in an employed position, usually, okay, just usually, okay, but sometimes it can also show your ability to manage a business also. If you work outside of the office, however, other domains will show more significant power, such as your wealth domain or travel domain, alright? Because people who conduct business usually have to reach out to a lot of markets, international markets especially. So the travel domain may give you more influence. The career domain also shows your working attitudes, methods, skills, and also displays your desire and ability to gain professional knowledge. It can also show your level of education and competence in test taking or examination. For example, certain work, right, that we enter into will require us to pass certain form of examination before we can enter into this kind of work. All right. So the career domain will also somewhat shows your academic achievements, your ability to, or your luck related to taking tests and exams. Okay. For example, people like me, right, I don't really like to study, but I don't know why most of the time I will be able to pass my exam, okay, even if I don't study hard. So basically I have a 化禄 within my career domain. Alright, 化禄 is also called a positive affinity. Okay, 就是化禄也是代表一种好的缘分。所以呢，你有化禄星在你的事业宫嘛，你不读书的话，你也考试可以考得上的，就是那么奇怪的，就是很奇怪的事情。好像我以前考试嘛，我考试之前的晚上呢，我都不读书的，我就随便休息啊，然后呢我去考试，然后呢我通常就第一个写完那些 essay 了啊，或者那个exam 的 paper， 通常我第一个做完，可是我也没有什么把握，我也没有放太多的执着下去读那个考试啊，可是到最后我就考得很好的成绩哦，因为我有化禄在我的事业宫，然后到最后我也是考上了 master degree， 我也不懂自己为什么考得上，而且呢每个 subject 我都拿 higher distinction. So basically I believe it's because of this 化禄 star within my birth chart, within my career domain especially, which helps my study, okay, in terms of examinations and academic achievements, okay. So in terms of both academic achievements and career, your career performance, you can always analyze your career domain to see whether you'll be able to do well in this area, okay. All right, so the next domain, which is also a very important domain, is called the property domain. As I've mentioned before, after we go to work, right, usually we'll be able to accumulate some money and buy our first house, okay. That's also the reason why career domain is situated next to the property domain, because you know, without work, usually you can't buy your first house or more houses in the future. All right, the property domain is an indicator of your personal resources acquired from others. Personal resources usually refers to assets such as houses or other form of fixed assets, okay. It can show inheritance, family fortune, and family relationships also. So in some way, the property domain also reflects your relationships with your family. And this domain is strong. If this domain is strong in your chart, then your family life and the environment you are in usually will be very stable. When I refer to environment, I mean your the physical place that you live in, basically your house. Even if you have your own business, sometimes it can refer to your office or your office building also. Merry Christmas, Mr. Pima. Thank you very much for watching. And also, right, it will also reflect your relationship with your family, okay. So if this chamber or this domain, the property domain, is weak, right, then you may actually, right, have lesser chance of acquiring your own house, your own property, or you may have a weak family relationship, okay. Okay, very good. Okay, so the next domain we have is the containment domain, or what I like to call the karmic or mind domain. Okay, 就是呢用华语说这个叫做福德宫。福德宫是代表了福气跟德行，福气就是上辈子带来的，德行就是我们的那个我们所做的一切，我们所种的那个做的行为，我们的想法等等这些都叫做德行，所以就叫做福德宫。可是呢 in terms of English, it is being translated as the containment domain, because it also shows your level of enjoyment in this life. And I personally like to refer it as being referred to the mind domain, okay, because it shows your personality and thoughts. or the karmic domain because it shows your karma, okay? But for today's teaching purposes, I will refer it to as the containment domain, okay? Because it is easier, okay? The containment domain or the chamber is an important domain, all right? As especially for women, all right? In the past, Zi Wei Dou Shu, because it is basically an astrological system that is adopted by the male gender to carry out forecasts for the future. It was used usually by the king or the emperor, so it was more focused for the male gender. And thank you very much, Mr. On, for watching. Have a blessed Christmas also, all right? And but as Zi Wei Dou Shu evolved, all right, after the Tang Dynasty, it was being slowly, leaked out of the imperial courts, and commoners can use it also. So female genders also use this Zi Wei Dou Shu system to forecast their future. So for guys, right, the most important domains, all right, for male gender will be the self-destiny domain, the career domain, wealth domain, and also the travel domain. Whereas for female, the containment domain will be very important, which is one of the most important domains. Other domains that are important for females will be the marriage domain, the children's domain also, all right? Because in ancient time, right, how the woman's life will turn out to be will very much be affected by who she married. All right, if you marry the husband that's very wealthy, most of the time you'll be very wealthy also. And if you married a husband who is a gambler or who is a drug addict, then usually the female may not do so well in her life also, okay? Very commonsensical, idea. And thus we have to look at the marriage domain of a female gender, which is a very important focus point for Zi Wei Dou Shu analysis. Whereas in ancient time, after the husband passed away, the children will look after the mother. So the children's domain is also another important domains, all right, for another important domain for a female, okay? So let's cut it short, all right? Let's focus on this containment domains first, all right? The containment domain or the containment chamber is especially important for a woman. It reflects a person's level of satisfaction in both their material and spiritual life. It shows their general mental state, what type of interests or hobbies they enjoy, and how they distribute money, because the containment domain is right at the opposite direction of the wealth domain, okay? So if you have Hua Lu within your containment domain, usually it will affect your wealth domain positively, causing you to be wealthy also. Likewise, if you have negative stars like Hua Ji in your containment domain, then likewise you will be able to or you will face a lot of financial obstacles in this lifetime, unable to save money, have a chance to become bankrupt, for etc. All right. So all the domains will influence each other. Okay, especially the domain in the right opposite direction. OK， 就是呢，还有一件事情呢，就是呢，紫微斗数里面有说一件事情，就是呢，忌可坐不可冲，哈。这个化忌的星呢，在你的对宫呢，冲你的那个本宫的话呢，是一个非常不好的现象。That's the reason why I mentioned, right? If you have 化忌 within your containment domain clashing with your wealth domain, it is a sign of financial challenge. So it's best not to have this kind of formation, all right? But as I mentioned, all right, containment domain can influence your wealth domain greatly. Therefore, we also have to place very strong emphasis in the containment domain, all right? The containment domain also reflects a person's land, all right, in terms of lifespan, and also is closely related to one's mental state, okay, mental state, all right. For example, people who have 陀螺 within the mind or this containment domain usually will think a lot, 会很转那个牛角尖，会很转那个牛角尖。Thus, it is very important to analyze this containment domain also. And in some way, it also shows your old age, okay? Because 福德宫呢，就在我们整个命宫那个大概最后两个了哈。The containment domain basically situated at the second last domain of the entire birth chart sequence. Therefore, it represents our old age above 55 years old, okay? for modern context, perhaps 60 and above. Okay, your life 60 and above. All right, you have to analyze your 福德宫 in order to see what kind of development you will have during your old age. Okay, lastly, we will have the parents domain. The parents domain is an important domain because it shows the luck that you will have at birth and throughout your lifetime. Okay, let me repeat. It shows your luck at birth, all right, like whether you are born wealthy, you are born with a golden spoon in your mouth, or you are born into a family in a third world country suffering from poverty, for example. Okay, it can make a lot of difference for your entire life. Okay, because where you are born, right? If you are born, 你是李嘉诚的儿子，那当然你一辈子可能就不愁吃不愁穿。可是呢，你在第三世界国家出生，在一个很贫穷的家庭里面出生的话呢，你整辈子都很难发财很难发财，因为你整个环境都不好嘛。然后你也你长大的那个过程也没有人支持你啊。Thus, the parents domain is also a very important domain. It is actually sitting right next to our self-destiny domain. All right. So it also shows your like your upbringing, how you were being raised, whether you are given a lot of financial resources or you enjoy a lot of financial resources in the process of being raised, or whether you will have a good education, all right, or a proper upbringing. This chart will also shows your relationships with your parents, whether it's a positive one, it's a negative one. If you are able to study 紫微斗数 in depth, it will also shows the marriage of your parents, whether they are divorced, or whether your father is having a lot of other women in his life, or whether your wife, or whether your mother, okay, for example, okay, usually the mother can be analyzed by the siblings domain instead. Okay, I will explain this to you. I will explain this to you because siblings domain is basically the spouse domain of the parents domain. The parents domain usually refers more to the father, whereas the siblings domain refers to the mother. Okay, so that's a very great difference in terms of 紫微斗数. Okay, the changing of the 太极, what we call the 立太极, at a different domain will help us to check on the specific family members, okay, on another domain, all right? So siblings domain, which is the spouse domain of the parents domain, basically refers to your mother, all right, refers to your mother, whereas the parents domain mainly is referring to your father, all right? Okay, so lastly, the parents domain also shows whether you will be able to inherit property from them, inherit money from them, or sometimes it also shows whether they are helpful towards you or not. Okay, so basically all these are the 12 domains that you will find. As I have mentioned, there are additional domains. Okay, I will touch on the first additional domain, which is the self domain, which is called the 身宫. The self chamber reflects what a person will become later in life. It falls within one of the 12 chambers and becomes the focal point, all right, or the focus to determine the life path after the age of 30. All right, basically the self domain may fall into the karmic mind domain, the spouse domain, the career domain, or the travel domain, or his own domain. All right, so it will show you whether your life focus after the age of 30 will be on building up your marriage, will be about building up your career, will be about traveling overseas, or maybe about your self-cultivation, or maybe, you just want to have self-improvement, because sometimes the self-domain can also fall right back into your self-destiny or life chamber also, all right? So these are all the interesting facts about 紫微斗数 reading. Okay, so when we analyze the 紫微斗数 chart, we have to see what stars are falling into which specific domain in order to carry out an interpretation. So for today, right, lessons, I just want to introduce you to the 12 domains. There are also other 12 domains which I will introduce to you further down the road, because certain domains like the 来印宫, all these, right, are deeper level of 紫微斗数 reading. OK, 尤其是在先天派的紫微斗数里面会说到那个来印宫，来印宫是关于我们从前辈子带来的一些因果关系哈，那也是代表这一辈子的一些我们的一个好像一个 mission， 我们的 life 的 purpose 是来做什么的 ，OK？ 所以呢，这些比较深入的那些呢，我会在以后里面再讲。那其实呢，my intention is really to restart and to rebuild all my viewers knowledge in terms of 紫微斗数, so that in the future I carry out my daily forecast. You can listen to my daily forecast and also to refer back to your own chart and to see what stars are falling into your 紫微斗数 specifically to which domain, so that you can give yourself a prediction, all right, and to help yourself to live a better life, all right. So Merry Christmas to all, and hopefully you have enjoyed today's lesson, and I will continue to provide all these life lessons in the future, all right. And thank you very much. Do feel free and do like and share my video, and my videos will also be hosted in my TikTok account, YouTube account, and do feel free to visit my YouTube and TikTok also, and to subscribe for further lessons or further updates, all right, or to learn more lessons on astrological reasoning and feng shui practices, all right. And Jesse also, thank you very much for watching, and I will provide